All right, let's kick this off. This is really a real pleasure for me, Mitch. Mitch Cohen from eCurrency, and you are over at the 9 hours behind me, I guess, in the West Coast, USA.
Yeah, so it's an early morning here and a late afternoon for you. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, where exactly are you based?
Well, essentially Silicon Valley, California. We're in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah, and last week I finished off with Patrick Santilini, and he was telling us everything about schemes. We talked about the card rail, we talked about real-time payments, and sort of the new kid on the block is CBDC, which is sort of not the same as card payments and real-time payment, but central bank digital currency, CBDC. This is something you've been working with for some time, isn't it, Mitch?
That's right. That's right. So eCurrency has been around, I'll say a number of years. We actually created the concept originally called digital fiat currency, and the idea is essentially to digitize currency. So it's a little bit different, for instance, than what some people think of as the cryptocurrencies, which were actually designed to eliminate reliance on the central banks. We took a different approach, and we said, no, when currency, digital currency is in the future going to be a trusted entity, it is going to have to be issued by the central banks. And so we created a technology for central banks to create a digital form of their existing currencies. So in the digital euro, potentially a digital US dollar, et cetera. So just a new format or form of the existing currencies.
Yeah, no, and I think that it's a very important point, because I think Bitcoin, and as you said, these publicly backed, in a way, cryptocurrencies is they were developed sort of where you don't have a central body of trust. Right. So it's a consensus in a way from the public making it. But as we have, I think there are few institutions in the country which are as trusted as the central bank. So it's kind of weird to think of central bank digital currency as a cryptocurrency, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So again, like you said, central banks are mostly trusted around the world, and there, as I said, there are some people that are trying to create independence from the central banks, but what we're talking about is just another form of an existing currency.
Yeah. So they basically they're modernizing in a way. They have been handing out coins and notes, and it's them again, the central bank, who have the sole authority to do that. But now they're gonna do it, but in a digital form, and you create sort of the systems to help the central banks to sort of do that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And how old is the company, eCurrency?
Well, we actually founded in, I think, 2011. Technology, we actually started by going around to central banks around the world, initially around 30 central banks, and asking them the question of, if you were to issue your currency in a digital format, what would the requirements be? What would it look like? It was a little hard for them to imagine, but they did establish some requirements. We'll talk a little bit about those requirements, but we took those requirements off, and we went back to the drawing board and created a design. And by 2014, we actually began our initial prototyping of that, and have since run various proof of concepts and pilots, limited pilots, etc. Some of those initial requirements, I mean, one of the initial requirements is that the central banks are the sole issuer of that currency, and they have the sole control of the security of those currencies, just like they control the inks and the paper and the various things that make the security of a banknote. They want to be able to do that in a digital format. Another key requirement was the ability to actually leverage the private sector for distribution and transactions. They don't need to be and want to be in the middle of all of those transactions. They don't want to replace, the commercial banks and the private sector. Private sector won't stand for that. And so what we built was something that again is leverages that private sector, where the central bank is the issuer, but then distributes through the private sector, and the private sector can transact in a distributed manner with the security backing of the central bank.
Yeah, so you, in your digital way of cash here, the central bank is still the bank of the banks, you can say, and then the bank of the public who distribute these would be the private sector banks and payment services, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah. Now, if I stay a little bit at that sort of cryptocurrency, because I've a few years back, Facebook was announcing a big initiative around Libra, and I have you experienced a little bit that central banks has become even more keen now to actually come out with their own digital form of currency, because otherwise their national sort of currency might be sort of overtaken potentially by Libra, and then that would make it hard for them to do policy, money, or what is called monetary policies, and in their own countries. Have you seen some of that trend happening, that it's become more of a hot topic right now because of some of these cryptocurrencies coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for that reason and for several other reasons. So let's start with the Libra, and also People's Bank of China issuing its currency that they would like to make as a international reserve. Those are creating some movement in the central banks in other countries. The cryptocurrencies, of course, that have been around, the Bitcoins, Ethereum, and so forth, and the thousands of now coins that are out there, have also created some concerns for the central banks. Frankly, just even mobile money systems that are essentially creating a private money, not necessarily in a blockchain DLT approach, but are in fact creating a local, private currency. Those are also creating some concerns for the central banks. So they've been watching this, they've been studying this for quite a while. There have been a lot of academic studies turning into proof of concepts. We're seeing more and more proof of concepts, and I think in the next couple of years we'll begin to see true limited production environments, and by the 2023 we'll start to see real production environments. Another driver, the central banks for a long time said, well, we'll worry about that when cash becomes, the use of cash becomes so limited that we have to worry about that. COVID actually also provided a driver. The reduction of the use of cash, the increase of e-commerce, but also the need to do, call it helicopter money for relief. These are all drivers that have accelerated the interest in a central bank digital currency.
Yeah, that's interesting. How would you characterize, say, the e-currency solution? You've been around for a long time, and it's kind of has been a bit of a slow-moving market, but I think when it will pick up in a few years, or it's already starting. I know Bahamas has launched their sand digital dollar, which is kind of cool. First one, I think Cambodia, I've heard, is the second. So it's kind of it's happening things. But why would a central bank, would you say, go for e-currency? What's the unique sort of traits of the solution that you come to the table with?
Sure. I mean, in a nutshell, the technology that we have created provides the most cash-like digital form, digital solution. So there are a number of different attempts or architectures proposed for CBD solutions, a lot of them around some sort of central ledger solution or distributed ledgers and so forth. But a paper note or a bank note is actually a bearer instrument. It is something that is moved independently. It's independent of the owner that owns it, unlike an account. So what we've actually done is we've created the technology to create a digital bearer instrument, a digital banknote, as it were, and it can exist independent of the owner. So I give it to you, you own it, you now have the value, you give it to the next person, that person then has the value of it. At the same time, providing the security under the control of the central bank. Security is absolutely critical. This is a system of critical importance. So we start with some, security of the offline, root of trust, cryptographic mechanisms, and so forth. And all of that is under the control of the central bank. There is no, it's not that you're, for instance, creating another currency and then backing it by the central bank. We're actually giving the tools to the central bank to create their currency. It's not, pegged. It's not another currency that is pegged to that currency. It is that currency in a different form under the control of the central bank. And then we give the central banks the monitoring tools so they can actually monitor in real time what's happening in that digital economy.
So you're basically you're a technology provider that for a central bank that you give them the platform to issue and distribute cash in a digital form.
Yeah, that's a very important point. We're not actually a currency issuer. And that's, a lot of what you see in some of these other solutions. Well, we issue the currency and we'll back it by, the central bank's money. No, we're a technology provider that allows the central banks to issue their currencies.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about cryptocurrency sort of by consensus backed by the public, whereas we have a central bank here, and I think you are allowing them to back their own currency, just like they do with cash. But another thing you talked about, which I think is interesting, is is ledger technology. If you have a sort of a blockchain type of technology or a distributed ledger technology versus what you do, because I think what you're saying is that you don't have to develop or implement a solution using ledger technology necessarily, and you've gone another route, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, what we've created is the technology for the instrument to exist itself. That instrument can exist. It can be stored in a database, but it also can be stored on your smartphone. It can be stored on a chip card, an EVM card, etc. And yeah, that's very different than the blockchain digital ledger technology. You mentioned the whole concept of the consensus, the trust in the community. That actually comes with an enormous amount of overhead. So one of the problems that the blockchain DLT solutions have is performance and scale. We don't have that. We take this from the standpoint of there's a single entity that is responsible for the issuance and the security of it. And therefore we don't have to build consensus mechanisms, etc.
Yeah, and I guess it's sort of there's two issues there, isn't it? One is processing speed, that you can't process as many transactions. If this really hits it off in a country, then transaction speed, the processing speed is of essential importance. But it's also an environmental aspect, isn't it? Which is kind of a fun aspect that I've read about, that because if you're going to do this with consensus, you need so much computing power per, in a way, how many trees do you have to consume per 1 million transactions? Because it's energy you're going to use for you doing your transactions, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot also about the mining in the cryptocurrency world, but just in general, we've done studies. We actually measured the energy usage of our system, which is really based on traditional information technology, technologies. And we've actually been able to show that it's essentially thousands of times more efficient than the typical blockchain DLT alternative.
Have you been able to, in Sweden, if you have if you're manufacturing, you get a sort of some sort of green swan or something on your product because you're a green technology or green product. Have you been certified by someone like that for your 1,000 times more efficient type of technology?
No, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Oh,
We,
I like that you're a green company. Hey,
yeah,
but moving to sort of because we have a happy announcement that we've just made because Crunchfish eCurrency, there's a little bit of a love story, and we are really excited about this relationship with eCurrency from Crunchfish because. I couldn't think of a better player for this sort of new new kid on, new sort of scheme that is coming around, CBDC, than to actually have a direct relationship with you guys. And I, I like to hear it from you, Mitch, because you're the chief security officer, and we have an offline type of digital cash. We talk about digital cash as well, and it's an offline type of payment mechanism. But why? What do you see in us that complements what you already have with your platform?
yeah, we're by the way, we're very excited to be working with you folks as well. Let me take a step back and talk a little about the offline nature of cash versus some of these various payment systems and cryptocurrency systems, et cetera. When we initially started this, we really were hoping that accelerations in the adoption of smartphones and broadband network, maybe offline would never actually be needed. But we're still a ways away before everyone has that ubiquitous access. And there are a couple of use cases, primary use cases. I mean, you mentioned the Bahamas. There's the island scenario, the remote islands. There's the rural areas. There's the disaster scenario where network connectivity and power is shut off. And there's actually even a more common one, which is you just walk into a store and your cell phone service is cut off by the cement and the steel in the store. So if you rely on that for online, then we have a problem. Now, our technology being a technology that is based on a bearer instrument, a digital bearer instrument that I said that can go down to and be stored on a smartphone or other type device, lends itself to that offline technology. Your Crunchfish has created a very interesting and exciting technology for enabling offline technologies for payment systems. Frankly, as we talk about our system being a two-tier technology where we actually rely on the payment systems to provide that end user experience and interface, this is a perfect marriage, frankly, where you have this offline capability with the payment system, marry that with our technology that provides that bearer instrument, which gives you the instant and final settlement, and you really have the holy grail of this offline technology. So we've, as you said, we've established this partnership, and we're really excited to be working with you. And I think this is going to be really exciting to the central banks of the world.
Yeah, no, you have a couple of, it's kind of funny because, you're I think you're an Irish company, but you are sort of based in Silicon Valley, but you have some Swedes on board as well. Sort of some veterans like Lars Arvidsson and Stefan Karlsson, CFO and CCO, Chief Commercial Officer. How did you end up with these Swedes in your company? Are you particularly fondness for Swedes as you also are drawn to Crunchfish?
Well, the truth is we've had people all over the world. We actually have a development support team and our finance centers in Ireland. We've got people in Asia. We've got people in Africa. We do have people all over the world. How we ended up with maybe a concentration of Swedes, I'm not sure, but we're happy to have them.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. No, but because I know Lars, as the chief commercial officer, he was sort of chatting and telling that just the ability to do a transaction offline where you don't have any connectivity, it's sort of it is a very central problem to solve. It needs to be solved because in a way that's a property of cash, that you can do it in that way. So they need to sort of replicate that, and I'm happy that I think we have seen it this way. I don't know. Yeah, you saw this paper that Visa came out with for CBDC, that they are talking about that two-tier architecture, settlement architecture. Why don't we settle offline, and then we, subsequently we settle online? And we were really happy. It was an early Christmas present for us. Thank you, Visa, for endorsing what we've been saying for a year.
Yeah, I think there's I think we've talked about a couple of different stages. There's the ability to do sort of the settlement, a offline transaction with a later settlement, and I think the marriage of these two technologies will get us to the offline transaction with the instant and final settlement there as well.
Yeah. I think one country who are going ahead now, as we said, is the People Bank of China. As you said, that's also put sort of a bit of pressure on the rest of the central banks that they are now doing it seriously. And they don't have back to the ledger technology. They don't have a ledger technology there either. They have sort of done something more similar to you guys. I've heard from Lars that you may have even been in contact with them 5 years back or 3 years back or whatever.
So eCurrency actually chaired a couple of years back a focus group in the ITU on digital currency. We actually co-chaired it with a gentleman from the People's Bank of China.
Okay.
So in establishing sort of those initial standards, we worked very closely with them. And then they went off and actually began to implement that in China.
No, that's fine. Nobody's interested. I know I think 3 or 4 cities, Shenzhen and some others, they have issued the digital yuan to people, and it's kind of so it's happening now, Mitch. You said you started a company in 2011, but it's time to start harvesting on this sort of long journey that you've had with this.
Absolutely, and just I digress for a second, but we mentioned the ITU work. The ITU work continues, by the way. So we're now in a second phase. It's the digital currency, ITU's digital currency global initiative, and there happen to be 3 working groups under there: architecture, policy, and security. eCurrency is very actively involved. We're actually vice leads on all of those. I happen to be a vice lead on the security working group. We're actually involved in a number of industry forums. We've participated in forums at the Federal Reserve in San Francisco recently, at the World Bank, and so forth. And all of this is to your point, that there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of movement. I would say 2 years ago, the topic of CBDC wasn't on any of these, sort of the public forums, and now it's sort of mainstream. If you go to the IMF's, annual meetings, it's a main topic for those meetings, as an example. So we're definitely seeing the movement. I think we're in a great position to support that.
Yeah, back to where it has started now, which is sort of in some sense from a digital payments perspective, a little bit, Bahamas, and I mentioned Cambodia. I know they are trialing it now in China, but except for China, sort of what other major where do you think it will hit off first? I know. European Central Bank are quite active in the area right now, but do you have insights with all your because that's the great thing for us Crunchfish, who have we haven't spent 10 years talking to central banks like you have, and we really appreciate that we can we can come in here and with our technology and support a total solution here. But where will it happen next, do you think? Where can you see that globally? For where are the trends?
Well, yeah, sure. There's a lot of movement in lots of countries, as I said, various levels. South Africa is closing out a RFP process right now for a proof of concept project, obviously with the hopes of turning that into a actual production in the future. As I think you know, the Riksbank in Sweden is
Yeah.
working on a
The pilot thing
project.
as well. Yeah.
Thailand is working on a project. Yeah, Canada has worked on some proof of concept. There's a bunch of a number of countries that are moving this forward, and exploring with various technologies, ours included. Yeah, I think we're just going to see more and more of that. And there's, this is a big change. This is a once in a century change of currency. I mean, if you think back, the central bank paper notes were essentially, go back a century, replacing a bunch of private banknotes at the time. We're now about to see that same transition again in the digital. There are a bunch of private digital currencies, as I mentioned, private payment systems. The central banks need to go there. It is happening, but it is not an overnight thing. They need to understand, everything from the security to what are the market implications. How do they address privacy? There's still a fair amount of, I would say, confusion in the marketplace. We're working to help iron out that confusion, but there's still a fair amount of confusion in the marketplace. And some people believe that the introduction of a CBDC means the elimination of privacy, and that's not the case. Or there's, or there's the concern that it would eliminate the role of private banks and lending, and all of that is not true.
It all depends on the implementation, isn't it? Sort of
Yeah.
that you can obviously keep track of everything with CBDC if you have that. If you want to do that, but I know I saw Legrand, the chairman here for European Central Bank, saying that privacy is key in Europe, at least. That will be the key issue. So it's all about the implementation and how you would set it up, really, to what you can deliver. And I think people, I think privacy is the key issue here, but also the offline aspect that we feel we bring to the table here, because in Sweden and Norway, we are at that stage that you talked about earlier. We have less than 10% of our transaction. Very few people carry cash anymore. So it's even if it's a legal tender, you can use it in Sweden, but people are just carrying cards, and they have Swish, the sort of mobile payments app, and that's it, really. It is quickly disappearing. Even I think the vice sort of where is it? Vice director or something, vice chairman or vice president, perhaps the vice president of the Swedish Central Bank, Cecilia Skingsley. She's saying that, well, cash might be all gone completely in Sweden, 2023. And then they better hurry up to provide that alternative, because I think cash has some special properties that all these digital forms do not have. So it's important to then hurry up, I think, central bank.
Yeah, you touched on a couple things. I think Sweden is one of the reasons that they're way out in front is their use of cash is really dwindling faster than most countries. But in all countries, there's going to be a tipping point. Yeah. There's we think of cash. One of the attributes of cash, I mean, it has many attributes. One of the attributes of cash is that it's essentially free, or at least perceived to be free, to the end user. Now, there may actually be fees, ATM fees, and various other things like that. But there's actually a fairly large cost to society and to the merchants. They have to maintain change. They have to, print it, ship it, destroy it, keep it in safes, and and all those things. Keep enough money to have change, to take the time to make change. It's far less efficient than some of these electronic payments. And what happens is, as people move more and more towards the electronic payment systems or electronic cash, the use of paper cash obviously goes down. Paper money goes down, but those costs don't go away. You're still maintaining an ATM, you're still maintaining a safe, you're still having to maintain
transaction will go up.
Exactly. The
Yeah,
cost per transaction goes up, and at some point, it becomes unattainable. And you can think of it this way. I mean, I don't, I don't think there's a plane, an airline on the, that's still allowing cash payments for drinks. There's a place where it just is no longer cost effective, and we're going to see that tipping point, sooner in some countries, obviously, than others, like Sweden. But it's definitely happening, and as I said, COVID is an accelerator as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've certainly seen that in India right now. That it's a cash society. Over 80% of the retail transaction is cash in India. Sweden is less than 10%. So it's a big difference in setup of the countries. But they're moving away from cash quite quickly because it is the feeling that it's potentially contagious to touch the banknote. Yeah, you don't want to do.
There's that. Then there's obviously the people aren't going out, so they're doing more and more long distance transactions.
E-commerce as well. Yeah,
and one of the shortcomings of paper money, of course, is that you can't transact over long distances.
No, it's sort of bounded by space and time, isn't it? Sort of yes. That you have to sort of meet someone, and you have to basically be there at the same time at the same place. That's what cash is all about. It's local.
Right. Well, yeah. Today it is, and when you digitize it, you can eliminate that aspect of it. There's other things. Cash, like you like to say, cash is king. Cash has a lot of benefits. It's, it's the most financially inclusive financial instrument. We talk about these lower costs. People like the anonymity of it. The governments and central banks, and if people really think about it, they may not like the anonymity of it as well, as it leads to, money laundering, funding of terrorism, corruption, and so forth. So when you digitize cash, you can maintain some of that financial inclusiveness. You can maintain the cost advantage of it. In fact, you can even lower the cost of it. And you can add in some of the benefits that you now get in the digitized world to actually govern and reduce money laundering, funding of terrorism, and corruption as well. Yeah. So it's really gives you the best of all worlds, the best of that cash. And
I think I want to. Cash is king, and I do sort of a play on that because everybody knows that cash is quite physical, but I'm saying cash is king of digital payments. Yes. Because I really believe that it is the digital cash which is sort of the king. That is sort of, I think maybe in 20 years from now, when we say cash, what we mean is digital cash. We don't mean the cash that we saw today. And it's, technology moves fast. I saw this great presentation you did in Greece that you talked about. I heard that you said you had 3 kids in the 20s. So do I. And they never use a typewriter. They never use a recorder. And they, they like to pay, with their smartphones and things like that. And, it's kind of interesting how fast it moves, really. Things that you're starting to feel a bit old, don't you? When you realize that they haven't seen some of the things you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you've done this as well. It's a fun game to play with the kids. Do you know what it means to dial a phone?
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean, Grandpa? Yeah, no, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny.
But it's important to note. I mean, some people are still very uncomfortable. There is one of the obstacles to the adoption of a CBDC, of course, is fear. I used to be in the healthcare industry. I used to do a lot of consulting to the healthcare industry. And there was always a fear of the digital systems, the doctors, well, we're not going to trust it. We're not going to use it. We're not comfortable with it. The next generation of doctors comes in, and it's just history now. Everyone in all the medical fields use it. And the same thing is going to happen. The next generation is going to come in. They're comfortable with the digital forms of money. And that's just going to be the norm.
Hey, Mitch, this is my wife's birthday. It's getting late. I promised to be home by 7. We're going to have 5 people are at our house. And then I have one daughter in, I said I have 3 kids. So one is at home. One is in Barcelona. And the third one is in Stockholm. So I've set up a Zoom meeting. So they have to want to join our dinner, but they have cooked themselves. So this is you have to get creative in those sort of
Oh yeah, I love it.
times.
I love it. Hey, this was a great chat. Thank you. Continue to look forward to working more and more with you folks.
Well, you know, we're going to kick it off this week or the coming week here, sort of, or you know, I think you've already called for the first technical type of meeting where we'll go in and really flesh out the details of how we can start interacting. And I so much look forward to it, Mitch. I think it will be great. So thank you so much for believing in us, and we certainly believe in you. So let's have fun with this.
Thank you as well.
Okay. Thanks, Mitch. Take care. Bye-bye.
Happy birthday to your wife.
Yeah, I'll tell her. Thank you. Bye-bye.